Hello, and welcome to H2 Pathways, a web based tool designed to help you estimate costs and emissions across the hydrogen supply chain. In this introductory video, I'm going to take you through the steps necessary to create and analyze a typical hydrogen supply chain scenario. To begin, let's navigate to the website h2pathways.org. When you first load this page, you will typically not yet be logged in. So the first step is to register for an account if you haven't previously done so. Registration is straightforward and only requires a working email address. I'm now going to log in using a previously created account. Now that we're logged in, let's take a brief tour of the menu on the left side of the screen. Starting from the bottom, we have this user section where you can view your account details as well as change your password or log out of your current session. Next up is the help and info section. Here you can find documentation in the form of a user guide, as well as an issue form where you can report bugs and request new features. These will be sent through to our team via email, and in general, we aim to get back to you within a reasonable time frame. Also under help and info, some further information about the web app, including a citation format, should you wish to cite the web app in any publications. Finally, our disclaimer and privacy policies can also be found in this section. We recommend that you take the time to review these before using the web app. At the top is the modeling tools section. This is where, as a user of the web app, you will spend most of your time. Firstly, the new scenario menu is the starting point to create a new supply chain scenario. And if you've previously created or saved scenarios using the same account, you can access these through the View Scenarios menu. Here you can also view a collection of predefined scenarios which can be cloned and modified to suit your needs. To compare two or more scenarios, you can create a comparison via the New Comparison menu. And again, you can view any existing previously saved comparisons through the View Comparisons menu. Now let's briefly walk through the steps to create a new hydrogen supply chain scenario. We'll begin by clicking New Scenario. You're first asked to give your scenario a name. Once you've chosen something suitably descriptive, go ahead and press Start. You're next presented with a set of parameters that will be used to model the scenario. These are predominantly economic parameters which impact the calculation of levelized cost. They include the lifetime of the scenario in years, the project commencement year, the per annum discount factor, the capital expenditure budget broken down over the years of the project. Note that the numbers in this list should add up to 1. And finally, the carbon price in US dollars per tons of CO2 equivalent. If the carbon price is left blank, it is assumed to be 0. We'll now go ahead and click Submit, leaving all fields with their default values. We are now ready to begin adding modules to build up our scenario. At this point, it's probably a good time to clarify some terminology. So far, we've been using the term scenario, by which we mean to refer to a specific pathway through the hydrogen supply chain. As we'll see, a scenario essentially comprises a network of modules linked together. A module, on the other hand, is a specific element within the supply chain. It represents an instance of a given technology. We'll come back to the various scenario actions at the bottom of this menu, but for now let's click Module and get started building up our scenario. The first step is to choose the module type. Modules are grouped into a series of stages. These include resources, storage, transport, and so on. Within each stage, there are various technology types, and in some cases, these are further broken down into sub-technology types. In general, a module will have one or more precursor modules, which need to be specified when adding the module. For example, an electrolyzer module will require electricity and water as precursors. The exception to this is certain resource modules which have no precursors and are therefore the recommended starting point when building a scenario. For our example, we will start with a solar electricity module. We select this by choosing resource as the stage, electricity as the technology, and solar as the sub-technology. We then click Next to proceed to Step 2. In Step 2, we specify the location of the module. The module location is used to determine various factors, including the country-specific location factor, which is applied to CapEx and fixed OpEx, capacity factors for wind and solar electricity generation modules, and distances for transport modules such as shipping and trucking. For our solar module, we'll use a location in the Karratha Industrial Estate in northwestern Australia. Once we've selected our address, we click Next to move to the final stage. The final step in creating a module is to specify the module parameters, which depend on the particular technology. For the solar module, the capacity factor is determined from solar irradiation data for the module location. The life cycle emissions rate is localized according to location data. For any parameter, you can change the dropdown from literature default to user defined in order to edit the parameter and select your own value. For our purposes, we're going to stick with the literature default values, which are calculated as averages from a database compiled from literature data. Clicking Submit will then create the module. After clicking Submit, we are taken back to the Scenario Details view, where we can see that our new module has been added. We'll now go ahead and add a second module. This time we'll add a desalination plant. To do this, let's click Add Module. We'll select Stage Resource, Technology Water, and Sub-Technology Desalination. We also need to remember to add the electricity from the solar module as a precursor. We'll now click Next. And in location, we're going to add the same location that we used previously. We'll click Next. And once again, we'll stick with the default parameters. Here you'll notice that there are different parameters from what we saw previously. We're now taken back again to the Scenario Details page, and here you can see we've got two modules. And you'll notice under Precursors column, there's the value 1, which tells us that the desalination plant is using the solar electricity module as a precursor. We'll now follow the same process to add the remaining modules for our scenario. Next up will be an alkaline electrolyzer, which is from the production stage, the electrolysis technology, and alkaline as the sub-technology. We'll need both solar energy and water as precursors. Once again, we'll use the same location. And once again, we're going to stick with the default parameters. Next up is the compression stage, for which the precursors are electricity and electrolysis. This is a conversion stage, it's compression technology, and it's hydrogen compression. And again, the same location. And the default parameters. And our final module will be a storage tank, which is under the storage stage, compressed stage 2 as technology, and tanks as the sub-technology. And you'll see here I forgot to click a precursor, and it tells us that we need a particular precursor from either shipping or pipeline. So we're going to add the compression as our precursor. And for the final time, we'll accept all the default parameters for our hydrogen storage tank. Once we've added these modules, our details page is now complete. Our final step before running an analysis is to define the scenario basis. To do this, we click the Add Basis button at the bottom half of the screen. We then select which module to be used as the basis. We'll choose the electrolyzer module. Then we click Select. We then need to enter the basis scale. The units will depend on which module we've selected. Here, we've selected the electrolyzer module, and the units are kilograms of hydrogen per day. We'll set this to 100 tons per day, which is equivalent to 100,000 kilograms. And after clicking Set Scale, we've specified the basis, and our scenario is now complete. With our scenario fully defined, we can now proceed to run an analysis. To do this, click the Run Analysis button. The app will run the analysis calculation and present the results. These include a breakdown of the levelized cost of hydrogen on the left-hand side of the screen, and the emissions intensity on the right-hand side of the screen. Further down the screen is a table providing numerical values in the first row for the whole scenario and in subsequent rows for each module in the scenario. That concludes our walkthrough of a simple hydrogen value chain scenario. To finish up, we'll briefly discuss the remaining buttons in the scenario details view. Firstly, the Visualize button. This brings up a network diagram showing how the modules in the scenario are all connected. Secondly, the Edit Scenario button allows you to go back and change the scenario name or the overall scenario parameters, which were originally specified when we first created the scenario. The Clone Scenario button allows you to create a new scenario identical to the current one, which can then be extended or modified as desired. Finally, the Scenario List button takes you to a list of existing scenarios. And that brings us to the end of this introductory video. I hope this has been helpful and given you a sense of what the H2 Pathways tool can do. I now encourage you to set up an account and get started exploring the web app. Remember, there is a set of built-in default scenarios which you can use as a starting point for building your own scenarios. Thank you for watching.